Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into, well, a really extraordinary family saga. It's a case study, actually, that gives us this unique window into the laws of karma, faith, and the ripple effects of our actions. Big stuff. Our mission today, really, is to pull out the key insights, connect some dots, and explore the universal principles that kind of shine through this whole story.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating because we'll see these really surprising facts and totally contrasting destinies all within one family. So choices made in one life can really echo. Across generations, even in the spiritual realms, it's a deep look at cause and effect, way beyond the ordinary. Should give us all something to think about.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The core story starts with this family, and they have just incredibly diverse beliefs, different experiences. We'll begin with the patriarch, the father. He was a Chinese man born in Sandakan, North Borneo. This was back when it was under British rule. His early life, well, he was sent away to Singapore at just 7 years old for missionary schooling, and he stayed there until he was 32. He was actually planning to go to Hong Kong, but fate stepped in. He stopped in Thailand to visit an English consul, and that's where he met the mother. She was a hairdresser. The story goes it was love at first sight, really quick marriage, and that led him to settle down in Thailand for good. And his career there was, well, quite significant. He started out at a British government tobacco factory. Then later, he became the head of oil distribution for Shell, another big British company at the time.
Yeah, and a really striking detail about his life, something the case study emphasizes, was his passion for hunting. A deep passion. He apparently loved hunting all sorts of animals. The text says he was, like, shooting birds daily just for fun near his home, which was by a river. He just saw it as a pastime, nothing more.
Okay, now here's where it gets, well, really interesting. The central paradox. Despite all this hunting, killing animals regularly, the father was described as very strong and never ill, right up until he was 93. You'd think maybe there'd be quicker consequences, but nope. Most of his long life, he was apparently fine.
Right, and this paradox, when you look at it through the lens of karma presented in our sources, it's quite profound. His long life, his good health, they were put down to old merits, good deeds from past lives. Things like distributing food, medicine, helping the poor in a previous existence where he wasn't doing the hunting. So these past actions created this kind of protective buffer. These old merits were still bearing fruit. But, and this is a crucial warning in the text, that old merit runs out eventually. And the new bad karma from his current life, the hunting, it starts to catch up.
So the sources are saying these past good deeds, they act like a shield, but it's not. It's not permanent. It can't block everything forever.
Exactly. It really paints a picture of universal accounting, doesn't it? The universe keeps a very precise ledger. His past good deeds brought health and longevity, absolutely. But the harm he caused in this life, the hunting, created a new negative karmic debt that had to be paid.
And it seems it was. The karma did catch up eventually. At 93, he got sick, colon cancer. He went through 3 years of hospital visits, treatments, before passing away in 1993. And the sources mention he suffered terribly at the end, severe coughing, difficulty breathing.
And that tragic end, the specific way he suffered, is directly linked by the sources to his actions in that life. It says very clearly the current bad karma from killing animals began to take effect, and it manifested as that specific illness, the breathing problems, the nature of his death.
Okay, this raises a really interesting point about faith. The father was Christian. His wife, though, was a devout Buddhist, and she was chanting for him. So according to the sources, what happened to him after death? And could her Buddhist prayers even, reach someone who didn't share that belief?
That's a great question. The sources are quite specific. They say the mother's Itapiso chanting, which is a very revered Buddhist chant, it had no effect on him. Why? Because the father himself had no faith or devotion in Buddhism. He didn't connect with it. So after he died, officials from the Amrak world think of it as a kind of neutral realm of judgment in Buddhist cosmology. It came for him. After his life review, his judgment, he experienced torment. The text says he was shot and dismembered, suffering in a way that directly mirrored how he treated the animals he hunted. But crucially, he did not go to the great hells, the most severe realms. Why? Because of that past good karma we talked about, helping the world, helping the poor. That cushioned him, saved him from the absolute worst.
Yeah.
But he is described now as being acutely aware of his sins, full of fear and suffering, crying out for help. But in that state, the text says, no one can help him.
Wow. That's quite a sobering account. Even with past good deeds, there's still accountability. It really underscores that every action has its own specific consequence.
Precisely. The universal takeaway here seems to be that while past good deeds offer protection, maybe soften the blow, they don't just erase the debt from new negative actions. and the form of suffering often reflecting the harm caused. Well, that suggests a kind of precise cosmic justice at play.
Okay, let's shift focus now to the mother. She was from Lampang province, and totally different story here. Described as a devout Buddhist right from childhood, always making merit and offering alms.
Yeah, her daily life sounds like it was steeped in spiritual practice, inviting monks over, worshiping, chanting, and apparently she chanted loudly with a clear, melodious northern accent. The sources even mention she consciously extended loving kindness to all beings, from Deva's celestial beings right down to hell beings. It was part of her routine. Which makes the contrast in their marriage even more stark, doesn't it? They spoke different languages and had different religions. And maybe unsurprisingly, this led to arguments, even though they managed to raise 8 children together, 4 boys, 4 girls. She tried her best to explain Buddhism to him, while he, being equally committed to his faith, tried to convert her to Christianity. He even brought a priest home to talk to her.
But her faith sounds like it was absolutely solid, unshakable. She just politely declined the conversion attempt, said she'd found her path, a path of light. And she had this belief, apparently, that if God wanted her to be Christian, it would happen naturally. Real deep personal conviction there. Her death came 4 years after her husband's in 1997. She was 79. It was after a fall, sadly. She broke her hip, had surgery, but passed away just 3 days later.
And her afterlife story couldn't be more different from her husband's. A really stark contrast. Initially, the sources say she lingered around the family home for 7 days, kind of adjusting perhaps. But then she saw a bright path. And this was seen as a direct result of all the merit she'd consistently made throughout her life. Her devotion paid off. Following that path led her to be reborn as a female deva, a celestial being. And not just anywhere, but in a golden palace in Navadungsa heaven, specifically Phase 2, which is noted as a higher celestial realm. Getting that level of detail in the source, it really underscores the direct benefits they attribute to good karma and devotion.
And she even managed to get a message back to the family. The sources say she received the merit her children offered up for her, and she was just filled with joy, surrounded by heavenly treasures, and she urged her kids make abundant merit in Buddhism to be with her and express deep gratitude. Now, what's really fascinating here, the mother had apparently never visited Wat Phra Dhammakaya, the big temple, in her life. But after she passed, a neighbor had a dream. And in the dream, the mother told them to donate money specifically there to that temple. And it was that dream, that message, that led the narrator, who we'll talk about next, to make her first visit. A bit reluctantly at first, it sounds like.
It's a beautiful illustration, isn't it? A universal insight, perhaps. That consistent, heartfelt spiritual practice.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need external validation or, specific temple visits during life.
Yeah.
It creates powerful, positive karma that transcends death and can even guide loved ones still here. Her faith literally paved a bright path for her and indirectly for others.
Okay, so that brings us perfectly to the narrator. She's the one guiding us through a lot of this family's story and her background. A strict Christian from youth, studied scripture, worked in banking for 16 years, but all the while deeply involved in her church, actively inviting people to Christianity, even producing Christian media. She saw herself as a real soldier of God.
But even with all that devotion, there was this undercurrent, an early internal conflict. She apparently doubted some teachings, specifically the instruction that she should love Christian brethren more than blood relatives. That was really tough for her, especially being so close to her Buddhist siblings. That little seed of doubt, that struggle, it was maybe an early sign her path might change.
And that internal conflict seems to have led to a huge turning point. This was in 1998. Her first sister sent her a tape about someone called Grandma and a song, Thung Na Pha Lung. She read Grandma's biography. What was it about the part where Grandma helped her own father in hell? Why did that hit the narrator so hard, especially thinking about her own father?
Well, according to the sources, that detail just resonated incredibly deeply. Hearing about this grandma figure having the ability to help souls suffering in other realms, it sparked this intense hope for her own father, given what she likely suspected or knew about his afterlife state. So she prayed to Grandma, asking for help for her father. And the sources state, remarkably, her wishes came true. Things happened that confirmed her prayers were answered. And that experience, that direct answer, it seems to have just shattered her previous framework. It led to this profound personal shift.
So that's the catalyst. She goes from being this strict, active Christian to becoming a deeply faithful practitioner at Wat Phra Dhammakaya, making full merit, really dedicating herself.
Right. And as you might expect, that kind of 180-degree turn didn't go unnoticed. It came with criticism. She faced pushback, even from her own daughter, who accused her of betraying God. But the narrator's perspective, as the sources explain it, was different. She felt that while God and her understanding might lead you to heaven, Buddha and great teachers could help beyond heaven, reach places, help souls in ways she felt weren't covered in Christian scripture. She felt life shouldn't be limited to only some heavens. It reflects this much broader, more expansive view of spiritual possibilities she'd embraced.
And it's fascinating how the sources loop this back to her past karma. It wasn't just a random change.
Exactly, it connects directly. In a previous life, the narrator was apparently a frontline supporter of the Sangha, the Buddhist monastic community, a strong supporter. But she had conflict with some members within the community. She felt hurt, disillusioned, and actually left to study other theistic beliefs, vowing never to return to Buddhism. So that karmic imprint, that past hurt and decision, is presented as the reason for her long detour as a devout Christian in this life, before eventually being pulled back to the Buddhist path. It's a powerful example of past choices echoing through lifetimes.
Wow. And there's another layer to her karma mentioned too, something about leadership, that she always seems to end up in leadership positions wherever she works, but then she often faces mistrust when she tries to help people.
Yes, that's also linked karmically. It comes from past aspirations to be a leader, which is positive in itself. But it was combined with a tendency back then to show favoritism, choosing people she liked, pushing away those she didn't, creating friction. So to overcome that mistrust now, the advice in the sources is clear. Practice impartiality. Be patient. Understand that all humans have defilements, different levels of wisdom. It's about letting go of perceived slights, not holding on to that weight, and leading with a truly open, unbiased heart.
That really highlights a key principle, doesn't it? Our spiritual journeys aren't always straight lines. They're shaped by these deep karmic threads, past life choices, leading us down unexpected paths, maybe detours, until we reconnect with what truly resonates. And even when we have good intentions, like wanting to lead, past patterns like favoritism still need conscious work to really be effective. So looking ahead for her now, the narrator has a very clear goal and aspiration to build a meditation center in Sacramento.
Yes, and the sources actually confirm that this project will succeed. Good news for her. But it comes with a condition, a warning based on that past karma. She must be patient with conflict, learn not to hold grudges, and actively practice cheering and praising others. Build that positive team spirit. Because those old patterns of conflict and maybe pushing people away could still sabotage things if she's not mindful. Lasting success requires addressing that.
The ripples of karma just keep spreading out, don't they? We see it so clearly in the very different paths of the narrator's own siblings, each influenced by their own unique karmic history. Let's start with Sister One and her brother-in-law. Now, Sister One, she was the one who sent the tape that sparked the narrator's transformation. And her brother-in-law, get this, he read a restaurant that sold alcohol. But he became so afraid of the karmic consequences specifically, becoming some kind of hell-being official pouring molten copper, that he held a public ceremony, poured away all his alcohol, and just stopped selling liquor entirely at his restaurant.
It's quite dramatic. And their ability to make such a radical change is, again, linked to past karma. The sources state they were both continuous supporters of the Sangha in past lives, specifically working in the provisioner department, helping supply the monks. So that strong foundation of past merit gave them the strength, the clarity to make that difficult, life-altering choice to ditch the alcohol business. It shows how past good deeds can really empower you.
Okay, then there's Sister Two, described as very intelligent. Initially, she wasn't interested when their mother suggested meditation, but later, living in Paris, completely out of the blue, she just suddenly felt a desire to meditate, just like that. And this led her to find a Dhammakaya meditation center all the way over in Belgium. She became an Upasika cow, a really dedicated laywoman, and started meditating regularly with Thai groups there.
And for her, meditation brought bright wisdom, a much deeper understanding of Buddhism, a real positive shift. However, she also has these persistent health problems. Cysts, 7 surgeries, frequent abdominal pain, and doctors apparently can't find a clear cause. This suffering is attributed to remnant karma, lingering effects from past lives involving promiscuity and killing animals for food. The solution offered in the sources: make merit in all forms, dana, giving, sila, morality, favana, meditation. Also specifically release animals from captivity or slaughter and dedicate all that merit to those she harmed in the past. It's about actively counteracting the specific past negative karma.
Then, oh, this is tough. Sister Three, such a tragic story, died at only 6 months old. The sources describe this awful accident. She was being carried by a friend across a bridge. A drunk driver swerved, hit the friend, and they both fell. The baby died instantly. The friend was badly injured.
Terribly sad. And the explanation given is, again, specific past life karma. For Sister 3, it was karma from a past life where she hosted alcohol parties. And worse, she apparently ordered the killing of baby animals for snacks for these parties, liked baby birds, the text notes. That specific horrific karma has caused her, according to the sources, to die young many times across lifetimes. The friend who was injured had similar karma, but less severe, hence injury rather than death. And the narrator, who was also there but unharmed, survived because she simply had no such karma connected to that specific type of action or event. It's chillingly precise.
Goodness. And finally, the youngest brother. His story offers yet another angle on karmic effects. He's described as intellectually impaired. Not severely, maybe he can count money, but less intelligent than others and very reclusive. Likes to stay home, avoids people.
And his situation is also explained as remnant karma, this time from producing and distributing alcohol in the past.
Huh.
The karma has apparently lightened over time, but it still manifests as his intellectual impairment. And the path forward for him, again, it's about actively creating positive karma. Make abundant merit and pray to be free from this karma. Counteract the past with present good deeds.
Okay, so looking at this whole family, it's such a mix. Different faiths, different karmic legacies, different challenges. What does this mean for the narrator now? How can she possibly guide all these diverse relatives, especially the non-Buddhist ones, towards making Buddhist merit, given everything we've heard?
It's a complex situation. The advice given to the narrator in the sources is really key here. It's basically start with herself. Focus on deepening her own understanding and practice of Dhamma first. Gain that genuine inner experience, that inner light. Then she can approach her family. But how? Patiently, calmly, and logically. Introduce Dhamma gently, always with a smile, and act as a cheerleader for any good actions they do take, regardless of their faith, rather than trying to push or enforce anything. It's that classic principle, lead by example, not by force.
That makes sense. And looking at all these stories together, it just powerfully reinforces this idea of the universality and complexity of the law of karma. Each life, every challenge, every success seems to trace back to some cause, some effect. And it applies across the board. Doesn't matter what specific faith you hold. Good leads to good, bad leads to bad.
Exactly. And the universal insight from looking at all the siblings is how karma plays out in such diverse, highly specific ways, even within one family. It often mirrors the past actions, like we saw with the consequences of alcohol, or the specific ways people suffered relating to hunting or killing animals. Understanding these unique karmic threads for each person is vital. And personal transformation, like the narrators, often becomes the most powerful way to inspire change in others around you.
You know, one theme that just screams out from this case study is the impact of alcohol. It keeps coming up, from the drunk driver causing that baby's death to the brother-in-law's fear to the karmic effects on health and intellect. It's a stark warning.
It really is. And the sources take a very strong ethical position on it. They advocate for quite fundamental societal changes. Things like not bringing alcohol to the market, basically, reducing availability, especially during important spiritual times like Buddhist Lent. They even suggest using public referendums to decide on alcohol policy, making it a community decision. And there's a critical point about leadership integrity. Those who create laws to prevent harm from alcohol, the sources insist, should not drink alcohol themselves. Lead by example.
That really connects back to that core ethical principle you mentioned, taught by Sariputta, one of the Buddha's main disciples, that actions leading to unwholesome states are not appropriate, while those leading to wholesome states are. It's such a clear, simple guideline, but you see it playing out in every single story here. Well, this deep dive has certainly shown us just how intricate those threads of karma can be. Wow. Weaving through generations across different beliefs, impacting health, relationships, even where people end up after this life. From the father's paradox longevity despite hunting, to the mother's unwavering faith paving her way to heaven, and the narrator's whole transformative journey, plus all her siblings. It's just laid bare that powerful law of cause and effect, a truly remarkable tapestry.
It absolutely is. And it leaves us and you, the listener, with a really important question to ponder. If our past actions, things we might not even remember, are shaping our present reality, and the choices we make right now, today, are actively shaping our future, and maybe even our afterlife, what paradoxes or patterns in your own life might start to make a bit more sense when viewed through this lens of unseen karmic threads? And how might understanding these universal laws actually influence the choices you make from this moment forward?
Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. We hope you'll continue exploring these profound topics and reflecting on how they might touch your own life. Until next time, keep diving deep.